everybody. This is Brett Ingram, and this is the optYOUmize podcast, the show that helps entrepreneurs build their dream business and dream life. Today, we're talking with Jeremy Bishop, founder of Influencer Club. He's the guy behind Celebrity Personal Brands, and he's helped over 200 people build world-class brands, including Netflix stars, top realtors, artists, authors, and more. I'm personally super excited about this because I actually believe that personal brands are the way of the future and the best way to build a dream life doing what you love. So with that, welcome Jeremy, and thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to getting into this conversation.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. So I got a lot of stuff I want to ask you, but I do want to start off a little bit just with your background. So can you give me a sense of what you did to start your career and how from there you found your way into branding to begin with?
Yeah, so musician my entire life up until about 18, 19 years old. I got introduced to entrepreneurship at 19, and the first big industry was actually network marketing. And so I had a blast doing this. I had a little bit of success. I built this affiliate network of about 5,000 people.
Nice.
And yeah, it's where I had my, made my first little chunk of change and kind of got my feet wet into personal development and growth and entrepreneurship. And I get a call one day a few years later, and they had an internal problem and the company shut down overnight. Okay. And so, I'm sitting here and I'm looking back and I'm like, man, if there was one thing that I could have done more, I would have focused on building my name just as much as any product or company or industry that I'm a part of. And so that's what really led me on this mission, this journey to kind of discovering personal branding and getting involved in that. And of course, many, many years later, I'm obviously proud to have helped, thousands of people do the same thing as kind of the journey that I went through.
That's awesome. And I have to say, there's a couple things in there I think really stand out to me. One, you took basically a problem and you found, you sort of dissected it and said, look, if I had to do it all over again, what could I change? I think that's a hallmark of an excellent business person and entrepreneur because we're professional problem solvers. It's what we have to do. Nobody's journey is straight and narrow to the top. At least I don't know anybody like that. Right. And so oftentimes our greatest breakthroughs come from times where it hits the fan and we're sort of like, well, now what do I do? But the other thing that I love is I love the distinction that you made because I have a parallel for you. So I've been in software industry for 17 years as an entrepreneur, and we've been building software and marketing things. We've been using affiliate platforms and stuff like that. And one of the things that occurred to me, because it started to get really commoditized, and one of the things that occurred to me was exactly the same thing. I said, you know what? The problem is my security comes down to my own ability to be able to market stuff. And the way I do that is if I have my own brand. It's not about the product itself. It's about the fact that you have an audience, you have a following, you have people that like and resonate with your message and who you are. And because of that, you're able to do all these other things. If it's all just transactional in nature, you're always at risk because any market fluctuation, disruptive technology, any of those things could kill you. And so I love that whole aspect of your journey. And by the way, just as a side note, I actually was in a network marketing thing when I was in college as well. So I know that whole game. It's a great way to learn the ropes. It really is.
Yeah.
So all right, so let's frame this whole idea. Can you describe to us, just so we're clear, what is a personal brand? And how is that different from like a traditional brand we think of like Nike or Coca-Cola, McDonald's, stuff like that?
Well, I just think as time has moved forward, we see more and more the integration of people, individual personal brands becoming extremely important and powerful when attached to a great product or a great service. And so this isn't the case for every single business and every single industry, but if you look at the majority of the involvement between celebrities or musicians, artists, and companies, products, services, it has become almost the entirety of how they market today. And so, the framework of this personal brand is kind of what you just touched on. This is the ability for you to have a little bit of, let's say, like personal equity, face value attached to your product and your service. Now, let's be clear, having a big name or being popular does not mean that you are a great person overnight, okay? Or that you have an incredible product or service, because we see these things go both ways sometimes. I have a saying in my company, which is we don't want to make bad people more popular, okay? So, if you're out there looking to scam people and you want to show off this lifestyle that's fake and then people buy into it, you're going to get, it's going to bite you in the ass sooner or later down the road. But if you are out on a mission, you're out to do good, I think that that's where you'll align with some really, really great brands. And of course, if you have your own product, your own service, I believe today, even if it is a tech product, even if it's an app, you look at the biggest leaders of industry and personal brand is there. I mean, it is the forefront of the trust that people have with the company.
Yeah, I think it's so true, and I think part of that is the evolution of we used to be like I'm old enough to know that when I grew up, right, the only way that you could really build a business or build a brand or advertise was through the big channels. So you needed a big budget, and
Right.
so it was a one-way conversation. The brands told you what you were going to buy, what you wanted, everything else, and you took it or leave it. I mean, there
Yeah.
wasn't enough competition. There weren't enough. It wasn't in a negative way. It's just that's the way business was always done.
Yeah.
And things have evolved to a point now where it's conversational. People want to do business with people they trust, people they like, people they feel that they have something in common with. And it's amazing to me the number of people that will actually, when they're competitive shopping or when they're looking to make a decision about buying something, will not just compare price and features. They'll look at what is the values behind this company,
Yeah.
who does it, who's backing it, and what do they stand for, and that matters to people now. So, but the other thing that you touched on that I think is really important, and it's easy to lose sight of, is because we've gotten to this point where you can amplify a message so much easier and faster than you used to be, it also makes it rife for people that are scammers to try to say, you know what, this is a great way to try to grab a buck. But I actually think what you're seeing when you see sometimes these people that have depression and other issues, it's because they're pretending to be something that they're not. And you can become really popular and grow a big following doing that.
Yeah.
But it's exhausting because you're not authentic. And so
Yeah.
you're putting on a show. And at some point, that wears down if you have to be on stage all the time.
Of course.
If you're yourself, you're yourself. And so I think that that's, certainly true and really powerful. So you think it's so important now because it's hard to sort of extricate the brand from, the personal side of it from the actual corporate brand or
Well,
product?
here's what I think. I think that if you focus on building something great in real life, okay, as you're growing your brand, a lot of these questions about, who am I? Who am I going to portray myself as? How am I going to show up on social media? What is my brand? These are some really, really big, challenging questions. All of my members are asking these same exact questions before, when they get started. Now, as they move through the process and they're going 1, 2+ years into that journey and they're growing their business, whether they are in real estate, whether they have their own company, different products, services, coaching programs, they're going and growing through this, and the brand will be directly correlated to what you do in real life. Okay? And so it's not this question of separation for if you're a solo entrepreneur and you want to represent your brand and yourself. It's not this question of separation of, who should I be here and then what is my business over here. They are very intertwined. And that's why, at a very, very large level, you mentioned, Nike and Apple and all of these massive companies, of course, it's just as connected for them to find people that represent their product. But for the solo entrepreneur out there, depending on what level your listeners are at currently, yeah, you need to work on your real life business, and as that grows, your confidence, the truth of your brand, it'll be much easier to kind of show that through socials, and find your flow, find your channels, find your partnerships, find your clients, all these things.
Very cool. So, so do you think anybody can build a personal brand? Is it reserved for certain professions or skill sets?
That's an interesting question. I mean, on one hand, I'm a big believer that, and I've watched. Of course, it's part of my passion, let alone my responsibility, to help individuals that don't think they can do that. They don't think they have a personal brand. They don't think they have opportunity, and show them an entirely new idea and concept. Now, a lot of the times, it's because they're looking at what everyone else is doing, and they're saying, I could never do that. I could never be the person speaking on a podcast. I could never, grow a really big following. Who would want to listen to me? And this, by the way, this happens even at an extremely successful level of somebody who has a business. Some of my guys, when they get started, they've got a massive company doing $1 billion in real estate every year in production, and they are scared, challenged, confused, not sure what the personal brand is supposed to be and how they're going to go about it. So if you're listening to this, yes, I do believe that every person has an opportunity to tap in, and your personal brand is probably already there. You just got to kind of uncover some things and get clear on what the end goal is. Why would you even want to do any of this? Because the people that are unclear of a real end goal or a kind of a mission, and that comes with time, but the people that are unclear, those are the individuals that have that challenge of feeling like they can't really, do this or build a brand, things like that. So yeah, I think everybody has an opportunity to, but there's some foundation, some work that has to be put in order to kind of access that clarity.
I mean, I think the consistency element that you hit on is so important because it's not something you could do overnight. It takes time to be able to build things up and to get a reputation. And so you put in a lot of work up front. And so if the messages you're sending out are sort of jumbled and all over the place, it's going to be hard for people to understand that.
Yeah.
The other thing I've seen, and I wonder, you mentioned about the sort of the insecurity about doing it. I met a lot of people that actually even have excellent experience, background, like you said, but part of their reservation is literally being on camera, being on
Yeah.
microphone. They feel not only do they not have a message to share, they're intimidated by it, which is shocking to me considering what they've already accomplished. But do you see that as an obstacle? Are there any sort of shortcuts or tips to get through that?
I mean, it's definitely an obstacle. Absolutely. I mean, if you are scared shitless to do an interview or to put yourself out there to any degree, that is the foundation work that I kind of, was just speaking about. And so when my members work with our team, I mean, we're a service-based company. I don't consider this a coaching program or anything like that, but I am certainly a high-level strategist that's in the ring, okay, in the boxing ring with them, helping them figure out that foundation and get through those initial challenges. So that's the tough part. But here's the thing, you talk about these like tips or tricks. You don't have to go all in overnight in regards to your content and your message. You don't have to have it all figured out in order to get started. And so things like, think about your family photo album at home. Okay, most people are totally fine and comfortable with pictures with friends, photos of them with family, out to dinner, on a trip, showing their life kind of in general and these special memories and these special moments. If you can get yourself to look through your iPhone at probably the few thousand photos you really do have, and you can just start to get some of that clear, basic quality content, a picture, say 1,000 words, So everybody thinks that they need to go straight to this highly edited, produced content, which, by the way, most people do not actually love to watch your, real estate market update or some highly produced, edited video where there's nothing real about it at all. If you could just go back to the photo of you and the kids, or the photo of you, your husband, your wife, that will tell someone more about you. I promise you, those are the reasons why people invest in one another, do business with one another, buy from you, want to partner with you. So start there with some clarity. Take a look at your profiles on any given platform and just see, can I clearly see who I am and a little bit about myself? Okay. Update the bio, give yourself a strong resume. These are some really simple things to just get started. And I promise that momentum is big, because once you kind of open that door and give yourself a little bit of confidence, yeah, some of my guys have gone from zero personal brand, no confidence at all, no social media, no following, to 2 years later, 100,000 plus followers. They've done 100 podcasts, and now they're superstars on Netflix TV shows. So, we've seen big changes.
That's awesome. It's really powerful. And I have to say, I mean, I love all those tips. I think they're great distinctions. One of the things that I'll tell you, from my own experience, one of the reasons that I didn't start a podcast sooner is because I struggled with the idea of, from the content standpoint, I felt like I needed to be an expert, right? So my whole perspective was, well, I got to know more, I got to accomplish more, and then I realized, you know what? No, I don't. I just need to talk about it. I just need to share the experience. I don't mind being the guinea pig. You know what I mean? Like, let's go through the journey together. When you bring people on the journey with you, that's far more powerful than being the guy at the top of the mountain decreeing all the answers to everything. And you hit on something else too, that sort of echoes back to the authenticity piece, and that is, people are sick of over curated content where things are just at a point where it's so fake that not only is it unachievable, but it doesn't even resonate with anybody anymore. Because I think there's been an evolution. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like when social media started, it was just, okay, cat pictures, baby pictures, stuff like that. Yeah. And it got like lots of views. And then people got to a point where, okay, let's up the level of sophistication. And then that went all the way up to a 10. So now you've gotten to a point, so now that's burned out. And people are sort of settling back in at, tell me who you are. Like, right. Let's have a real conversation. And, that was one of the things. And my other personal challenge was the vulnerability piece. I'm a kind of a private person. So I said, geez, but what I recognized was that the people that you resonate with are the people that are vulnerable and open with you. When all you're doing is telling them what they need to do, or sharing just business tips or whatever, and it's nothing about yourself, there isn't anything for people to latch onto and to say, hey, they're like me, I want to do that. But the one other point I wanted to make too is, you mentioned when you start off, right, you're going to have to dial some things in. I couldn't agree more. I know if I went back to my early podcast episodes, they're train wrecks. But I said, until you start, you can't get any better. You got to go through the process. That's how you evolve and how you develop your skills in anything that you're doing. So, lot of good stuff in there for sure.
Yeah, you connect the dots only you can only connect them backwards. Okay, first off, so there's no figuring it out ahead of time. What you said is exactly our philosophy in helping our members. A lot of people will say when they come on board, should I delete my old content? Should I get rid of the past because now I'm going to be something new? The answer is really no, okay? Go look at any superstar that you love that's an entrepreneur that has been building their brand for 5, 10, 15 years, and you can go back and find their content from many, many years ago. If you're a fan of a Gary Vaynerchuk, he's a perfect example. You go back 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long ago, and he's got this terrible quality content. He's sipping wine and spitting it into a bucket, and that was his content. But you can still go watch it. You can see how he grew from that to the Gary Vaynerchuk that you see today, that is this massive, clear quality personal brand with his own message, his own style, this whole thing. So you're right. People want to go along the journey with you, which is all the more reason to get started if you haven't already. You do not need to go reach some level of success in order to, share where you are. People want to see where you are now, who you want to become, and then who you do become in the next 5, 10 years.
No, that's so true. The Gary story is funny. I actually met him when he was still doing Wine Library TV and was a relative
Yeah,
unknown. And
yeah,
it's very funny because he stood out to me even that day because he was at an event for Rich Sheffrin, who I don't know if you know him, but he's done a lot of consulting with a lot of these online guys, teaching them how to take the systems of a real business and move it online because a lot of these guys, they have that sort of entrepreneurial seizure where you just get in, you just start doing a bunch of stuff
yeah.
and see what works. And he's like, no, if you systematize everything. Anyway, the long story short, he had an event and Gary was one of the guys he had come speak. I don't know where he found him. But there was a really funny moment because Gary got up on stage and he followed somebody who has a really big reputation. And there were all these people in the audience, and one of the guys, stood up and he's like, "Oh, to the guy with the big reputation, how much to take you to lunch?" Like he just was desperate to get this guy's attention so the guy could work on his business. So Gary gets up there, relative unknown, nobody in the audience even knows who the guy is, and he's talking. And he goes to the guy in the audience, "Who was that?" And the guy stands up. He goes, "You know, no disrespect, go have lunch with yourself." He goes, F whatever the guy's name was. And he goes, no disrespect to him either, but you got to have enough confidence and belief in what you're doing. He goes, you're your own brand. Don't worry about like going to lunch with this other guy, and it was so alarming that this little kid guy, with
Yeah,
no reputation at the time, but he had those beliefs from day one and he
yeah,
just, that's who he was.
yeah.
So that was fascinating. So, are there mistakes that you see people make when they're trying to build a personal brand?
Yeah, yeah. The mistakes are the most simple and obvious uh, things, and let's talk about them. I see when I talk to my members, especially in the beginning, I see what their concerns are, okay, and what the focus is on before we kind of rewire and create a great foundation and a new ideology about all of this, okay? So hopefully whoever's listening can take this away. Everyone focuses on the most insignificant things and they are so concerned about them. How many likes am I getting on a photo? How many views am I getting on this video? If the views go up or the views go down, it's changing everything about how they feel about their brand currently. I feel I don't like the way it looks. I'm not sure about it. Do people like it? Do people like me? All of these things, I understand why you would be, why you're thinking about them. But the reality is that you don't have a clear idea of the real end goal that you are looking for. So to help with these challenges, which I mean, we could talk about the problems and challenges all day, but I guarantee whoever's listening, they are very aware. It's either, I don't like posting myself. I'm concerned about all my metrics and these numbers and trying to get the perfect followers onto my page. I don't want these people. I only want these people, which, by the way, 99% of the time, you are totally wrong about who actually wants to engage with you and who you would actually end up doing business with. I promise you, right? So you never know who you're going to meet. You have to be willing to let these doors open and engage with people and find out over time. And unless you're already spending $10, $20, $30,000 a day on advertisement and you know very well who your audience is, I promise you want to take advantage of every opportunity to connect with people through your platforms, connect with people, send them messages, actually get phone numbers, actually get emails, have a conversation, potentially ask Brett if you can be on his podcast, because you never know what opportunity to come your way. And so most people are concerned about all these things that they can't control. And they're not doing anything towards the real reason that they're on there in the first place. So get clear about the end goal. So if you have a business and right now your main priority is to grow your revenue, put some cash away so that you can start marketing in a big way, great. Then your focus should be to build a clear page, have a clear image, and then go find new people, potential customers, potential clients, relationships, referral networks, and go and network and try and do business. Okay, if that's your clear end goal. If you've already become successful and you want to go make an impact, great, then start working on your message, your mission. Do you want to have a big platform where people can communicate with you, or do you just want to put out content and hopefully inspire somebody today? So you just have to get clear on what that end goal really is. And I think that makes it a lot easier to take steps when you have the right direction, okay, and really what the goal is right now, which, by the way, that will change over time. Okay, I've got guys that when they get started, if they could just close one more deal, it would make it all worth it, right? They'd get their ROI from social media and branding. But then what happens is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, they've developed this entirely new confidence around their image. They've been invited to podcasts. They've grown a big following with us, as an example. And they start to think of themselves and see opportunities that were not there at all before. And then they're thinking, how can I do some big brand partnerships? How can I get on the biggest stages in the world? How can I not just close one deal, but add an extra, 100,000 million plus in revenue from this entire system and platform? But it starts with getting clear on what it is you're really there to do.
It's a great tip. I think it's so easy to get micro focused, especially when we have a little following or whatever on every single post. And I think it's such a great strategy to focus on what you're putting out and focus on the process of it. I have a somewhat background in sales, and when I was working corporate, one of my first jobs was in sales. And one of the things one of my very first mentors taught me there, because I always felt like sales, it's scary because if you make the sale, you get commission. If you don't, you don't. I mean, how do you feed your family? And what he showed me was, if you focus on the process of the inputs and the regularity and consistency with that, you'll have a good week where you close 3 deals and you're like, wow, yeah, I'm king of the world. But then you're going to have a week where you don't close any. So if you only focus on the result at a given moment, that's scary. If you focus on the process and you trust that and you just adapt it as you go, then you have something that's more sustainable. So it's a great tip. So if we're starting a business, or maybe we already started, we want to grow it, are there, we've danced around a number of things, but are there particular strategies that you think entrepreneurs should use to focus on building their business?
Well, that is a big question, and it depends a lot on what your business is, okay? But I would start by saying, you've got people out there, maybe you're one of them, where you've got too many ideas. You've got too many different business ideas, and you're not really going deep on any of them. Same thing with social media. You're logged into 6 platforms, and you're not doing anything on any of them. So I would recommend picking a platform, picking a business, and starting to go and build a system, something that you can replicate again and again and again to get yourself some proof, okay, some proof of concept that you're in the right direction. So, as a technical example, if you have an online business, a product, whether it's a coaching program or a service business, okay, you want to focus on Instagram or on LinkedIn. You want to get your resume right, make sure your bio looks good, clean profile, content like we talked about, clear, quality images of you. It doesn't need to be this perfect curated thing. It just needs to look good. Your bio should tell people who you are, what you've done, a little data point to let them know you're serious and you're there to make an impact. And then I would, as an example, if I were to start all over today, I had nothing, no business, no team, I would go send 100 messages every single day to people that I would potentially want to connect with, want to do business with. It might just be a great referral network. It might be Brett, as an example. I send a message and tell him what I do and who the people I'm looking for. And Brett says on a 5-10 minute call, he says, Jeremy, I really like what you're doing. I actually have, 2 or 3 people in mind that I'd love to introduce you to, just out of the kindness of his heart. Now, I promise you that has happened to me so many times I cannot count. And I have gone from a simple phone call with someone from one Instagram message in an introduction to, let's say, a celebrity status individual who ends up doing another 500,000, a million in revenue through referrals and through brand equity and through a great testimonial through one message. Okay. So that's my strategy. That's what I would tell you to do if you're really just getting started is pick a platform, go deep, and go actually after the end result. So instead of worrying so much about the likes and the views and the videos and the comments, how many people are on your calendar? How many real relationships are you building that are turning into actual contacts in your phone so you can move the business forward? Later, you can worry about all the other fun stuff, I promise. Once you're doing 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 a month in revenue in your business, then you can start to really put the gasoline on the fire, possibly bring on a team like ours where we can go and help you, take everything to a high level. But in the beginning, that's what I would focus on.
That's really fantastic advice. One of the things when I looked back across my entrepreneurial career, one of the biggest mistakes that I made was I focused on getting my own stuff done in my activity, and I put relationships secondary. And I was in a business where I have a lot of partners, but they're all sort of arm's length. We only get together maybe once a year at various affiliate marketing events and things. And one of the things that had occurred to me is I would have gotten to where I wanted to go a lot faster, and I would have enjoyed the journey a lot more if I had invested more in relationships. And it's one of the things that I've done a full 180 on. And I think, I fell into that trap that I think a lot of people do, where I was so busy trying to get stuff done, I thought I didn't have time for that. When in reality, you start to meet other people, you start to talk to other people, and you realize that the amount that you grow from that experience. It's one of the reasons I love the podcast. I love having, you on the show because I learned so much from the experience. And where else are you going to get an opportunity to sit and talk with somebody in depth for 30 minutes, 45 minutes?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And do it. So it's awesome. And the power of relationships, I think that advice is brilliant. And just to take it back to Gary, he's built this gigantic empire. One of the things that he said he did when he was doing all those wine library TVs, he said for the first year, no one even watched it. Every email he got, he responded to. He said his job was making a video and spending hours doing emails. And people were like, what? You didn't have an admin do it? He's like, no, I didn't have an admin do it. Because I wanted to respond individually to each person, give them wine recommendations, do this. He was building all those relationships and he understood the value of that. And I think a lot of us are just like, but we got to get stuff done. It's fantastic advice. I love that tip. So let's talk a little bit more about social media's role in this whole thing. People have a love-hate relationship with it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be honest. In the very beginning, I was an anti-social media guy. I didn't want to show pictures of what I had for dinner. I wasn't going to show pictures of my cats and tell everybody that I have the best wife in the world. She's great for me. Maybe she wouldn't be good for you. Whatever. It's all good,
Yeah.
But everybody was sort of look at me. And so I always had this misconception that it was all this personal thing, and I didn't really want to get. But I've come around on it because I recognize its true value as well. Where do you see it in its role for scaling a business and how you can leverage it effectively?
Well, so this ties into everything that you have talked about from the beginning of this podcast, which is these big brands and how social plays and how personal branding plays a part. Look, business. It will always change every day, every month, every quarter, every year. It's changing. Social media and personal branding, this marketing will change. It will develop, but some things always stay true. And so, building the relationships, communicating, using it for a lot of people separate it. They think, well, in my business, I have relationships and referral networks, but social media is this whole other thing. Reality, they are exactly the same, and that's what these platforms were built for. right? So over time, as things change, you have to just keep in mind the things that are still always constants through business and through technology. And so I think that kind of gives some clarity as to, you're saying, hey, I wasn't really excited about social, and then I got involved in it. Again, if you had clarity, if I told you, Brett, at the time, or if someone told you, right, which, by the way, yes, great reason to go get into conversations with people. They have the answers. They have a little that little push that you need, somebody else's perspective. And so if I told you, hey, if you just made this page look good and, grew it a bit, the next time somebody connects with you and references your name and looks you up, they will feel a much higher level of trust. You'll have some credibility, and that might change literally somebody deciding to do business with you or not. Okay, so the amount of people that we kind of get that feedback and response, I've done a lot of testing over the years. Okay, I've gone through, posting every day to see how that kind of engaged with my audience and if it made a difference. I've gone through, not posting more than once a month. And what's interesting is when you have a strong brand, you have the metrics and the credibility and the growth there and a clean image, you don't actually have to be there 24/7 to still have social media produce and show you that end result you're looking for. Okay? So you're talking about not really liking it. Look, I have a social personal branding PR company. This is what I help my members do, but I do not want to be on Instagram all day. I don't want to be on social media all day. So I built my company to solve my own problem first before helping, a few thousand people over the past 6-7 years. This was just, what? I see the value. If I could network with hundreds of people every single month, book calls, turn that into relationships, turn that into new business, turn that into opportunities, speaking events, podcasts, partnerships, mentors, find all of these resources. Man, how can I create a system that does this so I can keep doing the business, working on the business, growing the business, but have a system that provides all of this for me? And so that's where I started to build a team of people to do these things alongside of me, right? So you'll never be able to replace you as the personal brand, but you can certainly bring on a team like ours to handle things like communication, building relationships, booking your calls for you, and creating an entire system so that maybe you don't have to be, have this social media run you, right? And you can kind of start to run it. And when you build a brand big enough, which, by the way, does not need to take 10, 20 years to do it, okay? This is not, my belief is that slow and steady does not win this race, okay? So I would encourage you guys, when you decide you want to do it, when you decide you want to get your name out there, don't just do one podcast, go do 500 of them, okay? Don't just look for one relationship, go have 500 messages sent, okay? Don't try and grow so slow that no one even knows you exist on social media. If you're going to grow, go big. Go for your 5, 10, 15, 20. Go build an account to have 50,000, 100,000 plus followers. Make that the goal, because I promise you the results are drastically different, okay? When someone sees that you have accomplished this level, the metrics, the trust that they have, that kind of trust at first sight, their willingness to bring you on a platform or do business with you, it increases drastically. Okay, whether we like it or not, that's really what we see. So I would say when you decide to do it, go big. When you decide to do it, put the gas on the fire and go all the way.
That's a great way to build momentum, because when you're doing a little bit at a time, it's easy for starts and stops. It's easy to lose your momentum because it isn't working. Once you start to build momentum and it starts to grow, and to your point, I know you've obviously worked with people that are Netflix stars, but I know, because I have some associates that are in the entertainment industry, that one of the things that casting directors look for now is, what is your social following? They're literally casting people because they know the tickets are already pre-sold. if they get somebody that's got 1 million followers, it's the reason you see reality stars with zero talent writing books, doing this, doing that, because they know that there are going to be eyeballs on it, whether it's good or not. And
Yeah.
so there's 100% value in that. And I love the idea of going big. A lot of people say the opposite. They're, well, just incrementally, like work it. No, 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 man, go all in. Like,
And hey,
why
but
build it small? Let's build it big.
to each their own. By the way,
Yeah.
I will never tell someone that there's one way to do anything, whether it's business or social. Okay, is it possible that if you just post every day for the next 10 years, and you just kind of hope and wait for your audience to find you, wait for opportunities to come to you, is that possible that you will blow up, or that you'll get, Scooter Braun will reach out to you and you become the next Justin Bieber? Absolutely. It is totally possible. Very small percent, but yes, it's possible. For the rest of you, you have to go out and attack and go put yourself in a place where, I promise you, no one else is going to put you on the pedestal. And so I give my members permission. This might sound crazy. I give them permission to put themselves on a pedestal. And when they do, I get the phone call, hey, we just brought one of your members onto, the real estate TV show in LA. I said, why didn't you bring him on before? Well, we saw that he now has over 75,000 followers, and so we invited him on, right? Is it a coincidence that 3 or 4 of our members are on a Netflix TV show? All of them have well over 100,000 followers. They've grown a really clean image. They've done 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 podcast interviews. They have a resume. So again, is slow and steady, if that's for you, totally fine. But what we know, what we see, is certainly that I'm giving you permission to put yourself on a pedestal, build that resume, that credibility for yourself. It's going to help a lot.
It's awesome. So you talk a lot about a 7-figure mindset. Can you share with us what that is and how we can adopt that ourselves?
Yeah, seven-figure mindset. Look, again, it's the same concept of going big, thinking big. Look, foundation of personal development. Brett, I know you talked a lot about, while we were kind of before the podcast, you had mentioned, how big of a role that plays in your life. And so when I got introduced at 19 to people like Jim Rohn and Bob Proctor, and we spent arm's length time. Bob Proctor would come and speak on stage with our group. The abundance and the information and kind of the reframe, paradigm shift that you can create. That's what that 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure, wherever you are, or 6-figure, if that's the first step for you. Okay. You have to just understand that those things are very, very possible. They are very, very possible. These numbers are not as crazy or scary as they may seem. They're not as far away as they may seem, just like whatever goal or whatever thing that you're going towards. I think at first, it really starts with kind of the foundation that it exists for you, right? Like you can have it as well.
Awesome. So where can people find you, find your products, find your services, connect with you?
Yeah, so of course, happy to connect on Instagram. My Instagram, I'm sure Brett will drop this, is just Jeremy Bishop, 0p_, Jeremy Bishop. Happy to connect with you there. Also, there will probably be a link here below for Influencer Club, one of our VIP pages. And so if you check that out, there are tons. I think we have like 200-300 examples of other members and different stories, journeys that they've gone on. If you are curious, really take some time to check that out, because there are some different stories and you'll see, the different angles and reasons that people have had big changes in their life, not just on their social media. If you'd want to book a call with our team, that page has a ton of spots where you can just click and have a free no risk at all, no commitment, just a strategy call with one of my team members. And worst case scenario, you walk away with, a whole new kind of next step for where you are currently in the business. But if you've already built a really big business and you kind of think you deserve a bigger brand than you have right now, I would say stop waiting. That is the time to bring on a team like ours, so that we can help you catch that thing up to speed and really have some serious credibility on social. But yeah, Brett, thank you so much for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thanks a lot for that. And so I do have one last question that I've got to ask. I ask it to everybody, and I think it's really important because I like to hear everyone's unique perspective. And that's, what's your number one tip for success as a business owner or an entrepreneur?
Nothing happens without high level energy to move things forward. Okay? My tip for success is you got to get excited about something. This goes back to when I was 19 and getting excited about a random business, a random product to represent it, okay? Or it goes back to anything that you do. I was a musician for 15 years. I've been a drummer for 15 years. When I pick something, I want to do it for 5, 10, 15 years and become really, really freaking good at it. So if you've got a few things on the table right now and you're kind of looking at your cards laid out on the table, I want you to think about the one thing that you could really see yourself doing and becoming over the next many, many years. Go deep and build a skill set that is irreplaceable. When you do that, I think gravity takes place. All of these other things in your ecosystem will be much, much easier to grow and to develop. Other ideas, you can always grow them down the road when you have revenue, when you have actual monies to do that, okay? When you have the connections to do so. But if you pick the one card on the table that you know is the strongest, that you're most excited about, that's most passionate about, and like you said, Brett, as you're going through the process, enjoying answering every email, enjoying dealing with every scenario, situation, and problem, find that business and put your energy there. Everything else will fall into place.
That's awesome. That's actually really great advice. So with that, it's just about time to wrap things up. I want to thank you again, Jeremy, so much for sharing all your insights and great tips with us. Visit influencerclubmedia.myclickfunnels.com/Jeremy-podcast-814DB, little lowercase db, to learn more about him and his business.
Just click the link. Jeez, that's terrible. That's terrible, Brett. Oh my gosh. Just click the link below. Or just influencerclubmedia.com. Influencerclubmedia.com. That'll do the trick.
Very cool. You can set up a time with him to be a guest on your podcast as well. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, remember, no matter what you want for your business and your life, don't compromise. Optimize.